Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel for a live reaction and match review of Fulham 1, Chelsea 2. One of the most unlikely comebacks in a long time. Honestly, I mean, I said it a minute ago. I can't believe I've just witnessed this. I can't believe I've just seen us come back and win a game late on. I can't believe I've seen us win an away game. It's frankly unbelievable. Like, I tweeted before the game, I don't think I've ever gone into a game against Fulham ever with this little expectation of a win, which is obviously a problem in and of itself. But now we have weirdly come out with it with a win. Did we deserve it? Probably not. Was the first half one of, if not the worst first half of the season? Yes, probably. But hey, how a couple of goals can change a situation. Back into fifth now, after we would have been seventh otherwise. But obviously we still got such a tough run of fixtures left. Still not, the biggest hopes of actually finishing in that top five. But hey, Dimitar, sorry, you just turned your camera off. I'll go for another second. Don't worry about it. Honestly, I'm mind blown. I really didn't see us winning this, and I really didn't see us turning this around. Nicholas Jackson, absolutely terrible. Cole Palmer, absolutely useless. I mean, Reece James, fucking hell, how bad do you want to be, bro? What is that? And then he takes Tyrique George coming off the bench, scoring a goal, and then Pedro Neto. I mean, he's had two good shots all season. Thankfully, they've all been against London rivals at least. So that's something. But there you go. David, I'll come to you now. Thank you very much for being back on. I appreciate it. You and me, we sometimes usually you're a bit more pessimistic than I am. But when we sit down on streams, we usually agree on quite a lot of things. My God, I assume like me, you did not see us winning this anymore.
It didn't look great. I have to be honest. It was. I don't think it was the worst half, but the atmosphere around it was probably the worst, because we know that we have a tough run of games coming after this as well. And this result was kind of make or break. So I think that was the extra pressure, which I also think the players felt. And we kind of discussed this in our chat as well, that the players really felt a bit of extra pressure. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's fantastic to win. It's fantastic to see Tyrique George get this insanely important goal, and hopefully this is also a big confidence boost for him as well.
Yes, hopefully it is. Hopefully it is. Obviously, you can see part of Pedro Neto's celebration there. Let's get the whole celebration screen up, I suppose. There's your Chelsea. I think, Chelsea going a little bit far with how terrible we were until that point. I mean, the most damning stat that I saw not long before the game finished was actually, 20 minutes before the end, and we were losing 1-0. The fact that this would have been the first time in all of history that Fulham would have done the league double over Chelsea. So thankfully, we managed to avoid that. As to Sammy, I don't have any updates on Gusto yet, but it sure as hell looked like he did his hamstring. It will probably be out for 4 to 6 to 8 weeks, something like that, presumably. So there you go. Let me get through a few messages of the chat before we talk about the game in more detail. One verse, by the way, my apologies. Well, first of all, don't blame me. Blame Pedro Neto and Chelsea, really. Them scoring at the very last second means I have to wait for 12 minutes until a picture comes out to actually use for a thumbnail that's any relevant. But there you go. My apologies for the delay. Mind of a Black Sheep says we deserve to win by far. I mean, I don't know, man. I thought half an hour in, we deserve to be 3-0 down. So I don't know how you can still deserve to win from that point onwards. But we can discuss that. Lucas says, we got away with murder there. Oh, boy, yes, we did. Ricky says, up the flipping Chelsea. There you go. What was that first half? That is my question. Why are we negative? We need a Champions League spot. Charge. I mean, yeah, you're not wrong. And, someone else said, imagine we win the last 6 games of the season in the league. And I'm like, well, yeah, imagine. I couldn't imagine it until now, but at least we won one of the 6. So I suppose it's something. Fire Red says the players looked so disinterested in that first half. Almost felt like they weren't playing for the manager. And I completely agree. I will highlight this and hopefully get back to it later. Gusto is mid anyway. So not a loss. I mean, fair enough. But unfortunately, Reece James was even worse than mid today. So make of that what you will. Max says, we got lucky. I'm not complaining. Saw a tweet saying Gusto's hamstring had to get sacrificed. I guess so. That was close, but we needed 3 points by hook or crook. And boy, we got it by hook and crook. Slen says, it's actually crazy some of these channels find a way to be negative after such a match. We were shit in the first half. Fulham just run than us, but they weren't better. They were miles better than us. How can you sit there and say they weren't better than us, man? Sorry, man. But it's so weird, isn't it? This chat. I mean, Dimitar, you're here quite often enough. When we win, and I try to be positive, half the chat is coming at me. How can you be positive? Maresca out. Maresca shit. This player shit. That player shit. As soon as I, for once, say something negative. So how can you still be negative? We were so much better than you do. I can't win with you lot. We can win a lot of games. I mean, we can. Probably won't, but we can. Maresca needs to reward these young players. Achipong and George have been playing well for weeks. Trust the youth. I mean, I agree. Unsubscribe, by the way. Tired of to say, well, have fun, mate. Well, thanks for, getting involved anyway. Appreciate that. Dylan Concrete says, after I come back to win 2-1, who's your man of the match despite a negative first half? Well, I mean, we'll come to that as well. I highlight this as well because currently, I don't know. Laurenz, did you realize that one moment when Gusto was still on the pitch where Enzo had the ball at the back at the edge of the box? No, I'm not. And wanted to spread it wide, right, and no one was there. That's the problem with inverting fullbacks. Well, no, because there should be a winger there, but for some reason there wasn't. So, that's a whole separate issue. I'm done with Maresca. If he wins all games, I can't forgive him winning today. Was a massive surprise. I expected 3-0. 3-0 losing. Fair enough. Dude, what's happening with Palmer? It's no more about fatigue now. It's never been about fatigue, in my opinion. Cole was pretty good today. Took a lot of initiative driving the ball and movement. Set pieces was top. Credit where it's due. Don't know. Sancho balled. Yeah, certainly better than what we had in the first half. The goal we gave them was, yes, another error. How many unforced error goals do we give away, man? I'll try to come back to more of your chat messages. By the way, shout out everybody tuning in. Hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't done that yet. Maresca finding the end of season Pochettino luck. He still needs to go. Fair enough. Dimitar, you've seen me react to a lot of these chat messages. Where do you stand on the game as an overall perspective? Like, I assume you agree with me that I know you said it's everything around it that makes it seem maybe as the worst first half of the season, but it was a bad first half, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, it was bad. Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, most of the people are right in their messages, but you have to put everything in context. Like the last chatter said, if Maresca does what Pochettino did and wins the last 5 games of the season, then we will be in an amazing position, I think, and the whole vibe around the team will be phenomenal. And there, I don't think anyone would say we have to sack the manager, just like at the end of match day 38 last year, many people were like, okay, let's give Poch another season. But then again, what the management of the club will do is just a completely different story after a season, because you and I both know he might as well win all of the remaining games than argue with them about transfers and still lose their job. And he might as well lose 5 games and then still keep his job. So that's the unpredictable thing about Chelsea. But as far as it goes about this game, I think it was very boring, very bad in the first half. In the second half, I think the players kind of tried to improvise a bit, and I think the substitutions were great. I think we don't say that often about him, but the substitutions were spot on. I think he saw what were the biggest problems in us moving the ball in the first half, and we were kind of better at it in the second half. And of course, we got some luck with the equalizer, but I think we deserved at least 1 goal in the second half. Maybe a full comeback was a bit too much and wishful thinking, but I think a 1-1 would have been a fair result in my opinion, even if we didn't get the winner.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think we did deserve a draw, as we do in so many of these games, right? Whether it's Ipswich, whether it's God knows who else we play against and get silly draws, Brentford or whatever. Like it's rare that we're like necessarily clearly the worst team of the 2 teams going ahead against each other. But yeah, it's really not easy. I agree though. The subs did work out. I mean, Gusto, I guess you could argue less so. Sancho was certainly better than Madueke. Now, would I at halftime have preferred to take Neto off? Then Madueke, probably yes, but obviously Neto got the very last minute winner. So obviously that went right in the end. But what am I seeing? Max says, I'm annoyed at our defense. When we concede, we always seem to be dropping off and no engagement. We'll talk about this goal. We'll get into that in a second. But Yashil, I agree with the end of season comment. Madueke, Jackson, Palmer will all have one individual match-saving moment, each like Sancho and Neto did, and that will paper over cracks. Cracks, right? I miss overlapping fullbacks. It gives more to the game. So many moments of lack of concentration. James give away for the goal. Caicedo pass a free kick right out of bounds. Felt lucky today. George doing something no other player does, which is shoot on his weak foot. I'm pretty sure George is right-footed.
Yeah, I think he plays an inverted winger, so George is he can cut in. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. But regardless, still does something in terms of shooting like most of our other players don't. So, that credit still goes to him. Antonee. To be honest, I've enjoyed the rebuild. I trust the sport in the right. Oh, God. I think we don't need to continue this conversation very much further. Fair enough. Tired of right backs at midfield yet? Honestly, no. What I'm tired of is our right back having absolutely no capability of understanding the concept of defending his far post or realizing that he's under pressure by two players and not giving the ball away as we are opening up our shape to start attacking. I'll bring up the lineup, right? So we can talk about this, but I want to speak about a specific individual. And we need to get on it anyway. We conceded, obviously, the goal early. We'll talk about that goal. Reece James, right? I'm really, for the last 2 days, I've been really unnerved by Reece James. Now, these comments, and it came from Pys, some people will, believe that, some people will not. But Pys's exclusives on his private Twitter page, or his, second Twitter page, are usually good. He does usually know what he's talking about. When Pys goes far enough to upload something and put something out, he will be quite sad of this. Now, in this post, and maybe I can even bring it up, to be honest, he says that a few individuals are unhappy with their position. I've got it up in a second. Because Reece James, how dare you? Now, I'm sorry. Some players are unhappy with their roles they are playing on the pitch. James, Gusto, and Nkunku are some. Now, Nkunku can flip and do one, like he was today. Shouldn't even be in the squad ever. So I don't know what he's talking about. Should be lucky to even get a second on the pitch. But Reece James, the only reason why you are fit for 3 months in a row right now, for the first time in 3 years, is because you are not playing right back. And because you are not overlapping every game. Look at Gusto, who played a much more intensive running role to Reece James today, hamstring gone. What do you think happens to Reece James when he plays that? What do you think? Have you not watched him for the last 3 years? And though, when he has to defend, he can't even do that. He has never understood the concept of defending a far post. He's been always awful at it. But when he first broke through, we played a back three, so there was not Ridiger. Who was the right centre-back usually? Aspie. There was usually Aspie playing right centre-back in Tuchel's back three, defending the back stick. And Reece James had nothing to do with it. As soon as he played in a back four, every single game, back stick can't defend it. I know he has the audacity to talk about that he's not happy with his position. I am absolutely fuming. He gives the ball away because he's too lazy to even look around. He's too big to even have a scan. What is this? Just waits and then barely gets off the ground. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe my eyes when I've seen that. James, get your head out your arse and start playing. You're supposed to be a captain, not supposed to be fucking moaning about shit. I'm really annoyed at Reece James. I couldn't believe when I said that Reece James is unhappy with his position. I'm like, bro, if you were still playing your position, you wouldn't even be fit. Like Gusto, I get it. Even in Nkunku, as much as he shouldn't be on the pitch, I get some players being unhappy with playing out of position. But Reece James, just be happy you're still here and not sold with your injuries. Like, that's all I'm saying. You're earning 250k a week. Oh, like nearly 100k than the next highest earner other than Raheem Sterling. And you have the audacity to complain. Nah, I'm not happy with that. I don't know where you stand on this, Dimitar, but this whole, I would like an overlapping fullback too. But that comes with other issues. I don't know why. Like, people just think, okay, everything would be the same, but we would have an overlapping fullback. No, we would also have less control defensively. I'm not saying we have all the control defensively now, but it would just be less. And boys, the next Sancho didn't even start. Why are you talking about Sancho? I don't understand this. Dimitar, I think you need to take over here because I'm going to start shouting at everyone. So where do you stand on Reece James? You
are generally right, I believe. The only thing I think is I was thinking just before he lost the ball for the second time for the goal, I was just thinking that he is not that bad in this position, but he's just not used to defending. He is not used to the fact that if you lose the ball in that position, the opponent directly goes into your box. Because if you do that on the right wing back, it's still not good, but the opponent does not have a direct pathway into your box. And I think this is his biggest weakness. I don't know if he can fix that. Maybe if Maresca wants to use him, he has to tweak the system a bit or change his role. Because I think in certain moments where we were doing this slow build-up play where we get the ball forward, he was okay. And he also did one phenomenal diagonal pass to Neto, I believe, on the left wing, which I think he didn't control the perfect way, but it was a very nice pass. And I thought, okay, this is something new to our game where we have this player in the middle who can give a good diagonal pass, and we have a fast winger in Neto, because Neto is mostly a transitional winger. He's not a possession winger. So in certain moments, I thought, he looks okay. But there is this huge gaping hole in his capabilities of just being the last man in the midfield, because he's not used to do that. So maybe there would be a way to tweak the system where Cucurella doesn't bomb so much forward and we're not so exposed when Reece James is in midfield. I don't know. But like you said, yeah, he should be grateful that he's fit, because if he was playing right back up and down the wing, he would probably not be fit right now. So it's a tough one, because I love Reece, and I know you do as well, but we have to criticize it when he does some bad things. We can just say, oh no, he's great because he's from Cobham.
No, exactly. I just think if you're the captain and the manager has already called you out for not being, doing enough in terms of leadership, even though he's praised him recently and said he has started to do more, that interview after the game against Warsaw, I've never seen a captain speak less enthusiastically about a football club than Reece James there. Now, I know Reece James is not the most enthusiastic of person anyway, which is fair enough. Everyone's different. But I've never seen someone, like, if you're captain, don't speak quite so negatively. It's quite literally your job to represent the club in a positive manner, right? And that interview didn't do anyone any favors. But then I hear you're unhappy about your position, but then you can't even defend the back post. It's ridiculous. Now, I'm in slight disagreement with you, Dimitar, in the fact that you call this defending. For me, we were playing out from the back. Reece James is in position, looking for a pass, and then waited too long, got tackled, and then lost the ball. I wouldn't class that as defending. If anything, the problem for me was that he lost the ball as we were not defending. Because our defensive shape, I think, was okay today when we were actually in defensive shape. The problem was sometimes on transition. And those transitions were nearly always made possible by Reece James, which is, I saw Palmer helping out Reece James in our own box because Reece James, again, didn't realize he was playing right back and needed to shift out wide. And this is where my anger comes from when people moan so much about against Ipswich, Chalobah playing. I'm like, Chalobah defended the wide area better than Reece James did today. Like, just because Reece James is a right back doesn't mean he's any better at it than Chalobah. Like, I don't know, man. Can we share the right back position? It's pointless putting. No, I disagree. Yeah. It isn't pointless because what's pointless is him being injured every single game. And we've seen what that means. And you see Gusto now being injured. So do you want to injure Reece James again? I don't know, man. I don't know. But yeah, as for that goal, he shouldn't give the ball away that easily. Now, Dimitar, let's talk about the goal after Reece James gives it away. What do we think about it after that? Because according to the XG stats, seemingly at halftime, Fulham had only had 0.08 XG in the first half, which I don't understand because I feel like they had a couple of other moments than the goal. So there must have been a few 0.0 somethings there. So that means their goal was 0.08 or less. Didn't feel like that to me. It felt like a good finish, but a goal where I'm like, well, if you're a Premier League footballer, I expect you to score from that position. But I
would agree. Yeah.
Like we were just caught in a moment. Like I said, we were almost like like a fan. Like in Asian countries they have a lot of these fans for in heat. Like you open it up, and that's what I felt like our team was doing. Reece James with the ball quite far right, and then everybody was spreading out. He loses the ball. Enzo is too high up the pitch. Caicedo is too high up the pitch. And then there's only the two centre-backs remaining, and everybody's trying to run back. Enzo almost gets there to block the shot from Iwobi. But also, do we need to talk about Sanchez there? I don't really know. Because on the one hand, I'm like, it was in the bottom corner, so I'm like, it's harsh. But at the same time, I'm like...
I actually felt he could save it. I
was like, is that going in? Go on.
I felt he could save it. I mean, I literally had the image in my mind of Courtois making a similar save in the year we were champions in 2015. I firmly believe that a better goalkeeper could at least get his hand on the ball, maybe still push it a bit and it gets in the net as well. But I think the keeper could have done a better job. I also do.
Yeah, because we can't forget, Sanchez is huge as well. Sanchez is not like Kepa.
Yeah.
So makes it even a bigger topic, in my opinion. Interesting, this comment by Kay. Maybe I need to watch it back. Colwell should be stopping that shot because I thought the only one that really had a chance to stop it was Enzo. But
it went through the legs of Colwell. I think Enzo also, if he was faster, maybe, but I don't think we can blame him that he's not faster in this situation. Yeah. But
fair enough.
As far as the structure of the team goes,
no different than George's goal. That's sometimes how it goes. You can't always close your legs. Like slow motion makes things look a bit easier, but like I say, I'll have to watch it back to see if that's like that. But I use the standard if that was Kepa. Yeah, I agree. I don't disagree, but people know that I actually think Kepa is better than Sanchez. So am I surprised? He made 0 saves today. Yeah. I'm glad you do. Now, is he worse at saving long shots? Yes, he is. And did teams stop hitting long shots as soon as we got rid of Kepa? Yes, they did. But that still doesn't change the problem that Sanchez is bad at everything else. He didn't make a save today. Not really his fault, because I think they only had one shot for him to save, and that was obviously the goal.
This is actually wild. I didn't realize that they hit only one shot on target.
Yeah, I mean, let's look if that's actually true. But it must be, because otherwise he would have had to make a save, wouldn't he? So...
Well, I think updating my Twitter as you were talking, I think I saw they had 0.22 XG for the entire game, which if that goal was 0.8, maybe they had maximum one other shot. But
look, the goal alone had actually 0.04.
Oh my God.
It's from inside the box. This tells me XG is absolute waffle. I'm sorry. How can this be 0.04? He's shooting from inside the box.
Well, I know it's controversial. Maybe it's because it went through the defender's legs, because XG in most cases gets into consideration people who are on your back, people who are next to you, in front of you. But still, I mean, the shot was good. It was in the corner. I think the keeper could have saved it. But I think for me, the biggest issue is that we saw once again that our team is incapable of defending in our own half. The most tackles, the most defensive actions we make is when we are in this spot between the halfway line and the opposition box. When we are perfectly set in our horseshoe possession form, then we can defend perfectly there. Caicedo is the best player in the world. He can make interceptions and tackle for ages between the halfway line and the opposition box. The second we lose the ball in our own half, it's absolute chaos. And we get opened up like a butter through knife. It's insane. And I think we kind of had the same problem with Poch last season, where the matches were kind of back and forth, and we were just always caught surprised when they were running at us. But here it's the end result is basically the same. If the opponent makes a quick 1, 2, 3, 4 passes in our own half, it's chaos for us. And this is what I don't like, and I'm not sure how we can solve it with this current personnel, personally.
Yeah, this is a really difficult issue, because I feel like it happens less than under Poch, because obviously we play less direct. That is literally part of what Maresca does to make this happen less, keep playing it slow and everything. But this has, in my opinion, led to a kind of, an unfortunate scenario, in the sense that, yes, it happens less often, but because it happens less often, we're less used to it and less prepared for it. So when it does happen, we're almost worse at dealing with it than last year. Plus, last year we had Gallagher, who obviously in those moments played a huge role in trying to get back and trying to get a body,
and Thiago Silva.
Well, yeah, and of course, Thiago Silva, obviously. But even that, I think Thiago Silva was also the guy that suffered most from constantly us losing the ball on transition, and then, having to defend when we're not in proper shape.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
But
I think positionally, the players just get confused. If you watch the movement of individuals for almost every goal, we can see it in this type of error, in this type of personal error. Players just look kind of confused, and I think even Enzo running back, because if you look at the goal back, Enzo did a phenomenal job to run back and try to cover the shot, but this was it. I don't think he was the one who should have been there, so he kind of sprinted in as an extra body in that defensive shape from out of position. And like I said, it's not his fault he didn't get there, but it's like they don't know what to do. And I think this is probably one of the biggest issues that if we could solve, I believe that the results can improve massively, because we can score goals, I believe, even with all the memes we make, we can score goals, but these one-off chances that we always concede is what really gets in the players' heads, I believe, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, 100% agree. Now, sure, sometimes we are maybe a little bit unlucky that when an opponent gets that one chance, they tend to take it, and we get 4 chances and tend to not. Sure, but just don't open yourself up to that opportunity. I mean, we had one big chance today. Make of that what you will in terms of how likely are we to score goals. Now, I agree for most games. Today, it didn't feel likely. Now, I'm even more baffled at the 0.04 XG by Iwobi. Now, it was 0.36 after the shot had been taken, but even still, they gave both our goals higher XG than Iwobi's, and I felt Iwobi's was a much easier and straightforward finish than both our goals. But make of that, take your own conclusion from that. But just to go back to it, first half, they had 0.08 XG. We had 0.16. Not sure when that 0.16 ever should have been there. But there you go. I suppose one big chance was in the first half, actually. In the second half,
we
had a total of 0.81 XG. They had 0.14. I don't even know why I'm reading out the XG, if I'm being honest, because we just got that kind of silly. But we had 6 shots on target in the second half compared to 2 in the first half. So, I'll make that better. I saw an improvement. Now, Dimitar, something that maybe we need to discuss, I guess it's also, as we bring the whole lineup up, I felt during the first half, and I think a lot of people watching this game felt, in the first half, it looked like to me a team that wasn't playing for the manager. And I am not usually, like this, Dimitar, as much as I have my issues with Maresca, I am of the opinion that the club needs stability more than anything. But I am usually of the opinion, once the manager has lost the dressing room, there is no point anymore. Now, usually I'm very much against allowing that, and I'm against player power. But how can you be surprised at player power when you change the manager constantly, but you bring a group of players who are all the same age, so they're all going to be very close. So if they don't like someone, they will all not like someone together. Now, the second half didn't feel like that. So it didn't feel like they weren't playing for the manager. And I'm not saying now they 100% are or they 100% are not. But I am now less, obviously we won the game, but I don't make decisions on do I want the manager gone or do I not want the manager gone purely based on do we get a last minute winner or not. That is something more random than specific to a manager, good or bad. But after this game, I'm like I say, at halftime, I was like, yeah, maybe he does have to go, because if you've lost the dressing room, there's no point. But now I'm like, well, he doesn't seem to have lost the dressing room. Obviously, he's not getting sacked now. I don't think he's getting sacked this Sunday, for being honest, because of the Club World Cup. But what did you feel that too in the first half? And then how do you feel in the second half? Did that change your mind again? Or are you confused like me? Where do you sit on this?
So this may be a strange explanation, but I felt exactly as you did around the 30th, 40th minute. And then I actually remembered the tweet you put up 10 minutes ago. And I thought, well, what a coincidence that this thing came up right before this game, where the players looked probably the most that you could look. You're not playing for a manager. Yeah. But then again, you say, okay, the second half, they turned it around. Well, that's true. But because I watch a lot of Manchester United games with friends, I've seen that under Ten Hag probably 25 times in the last 2 years. So sometimes individual class can happen in a moment, can happen in an instant, and the players, because they are professionals, they are very well paid, they are good players as individuals, they can make something happen. So I don't know if we can say for sure that they are not, or that they are playing for the manager. But what I can say, that a coincidence that this got leaked just before this game, or just before, I think, the Lega game, I'm not sure when exactly it is, but it's not a coincidence that these things get leaked at specific moments, because also the players must know that these next games, this is where it decided if Maresca is going to stay as manager. Because if he loses all of them, there's a big likelihood he's not going to stay. If he wins all of them, there's a good likelihood he will stay. Yeah. So it's a funny situation, man. And I think maybe the games against Newcastle and Forest, because they are our direct rivals for top 6, will be the decider. Will be where we can see if they are truly fighting for him, because those games, even if you're 2-0 down at halftime, this is a 6-pointer for the Champions League, basically. So there you will have to fight until the very last second, no matter the result. So we just have to look and see. I mean, it's very tough, but like I said, I think it's a bit hard to judge right now. Definitively, I mean, everyone can have an opinion, of course.
Yes, everyone will have an opinion on that, and it is a difficult question. It is a difficult situation. Let's be honest, it is a difficult situation for us. I love to see all the pictures of the celebrations. Maybe I'll have a moment later to bring them up in a bit, because there are a lot of good ones. Now, Maresca was also happy celebrating this goal. I mean, I guess we're slightly talking about, has Maresca lost the dressing room, or has the second half proven that he hasn't? Dimitar, obviously I'm very aware that you've been very critical of Maresca for a while, that you're like, well, we're not better on the Poch. We probably would have been better this season on the Poch had we kept Poch. And I actually agree with that. But I also think we'll be better next season under Maresca than we would under a new manager, because most managers, especially when the group is so young, will be better in their second season than they will be in their first. But that's why also at the end of the season last year in May, I was like, I don't think we should be getting rid of Poch. The question is now, whether you think we should have got rid of Poch or not, whether you think Poch was better than Maresca or not, kind of irrelevant at this point, because obviously Poch isn't here anymore. The question is now, do you believe it's better to stick with the manager, even if you don't think the manager is very good? which I think is appropriate, like which is what you do think, or do you think it's like the stability is less important than having a better manager? Where do you stand on it? And what would you do with the manager as of today? Now, obviously, we've still got those 5 league games. We still can finish in the top 5 and we can win a trophy. If we finish top 5 and win a trophy, no one's sacking a manager. Very few people are going to be unhappy. But we could also finish 7th. And, well, I mean, even if everything goes to shit, I'm still expecting us to win the Conference League, if I'm honest. But what do you think is best to do from here?
I think you bring up a phenomenal point, and I want to make maybe a slight change to my previous opinions, because I'm now in my home country, Bulgaria, and I had a talk with a friend which I haven't seen for a while, and we discussed exactly this. And what I came to the realization of is that if we had kept Poch but done the exact same transfers, I don't think we would have had this progression level that we saw towards the end of last season. I think the only scenario where we were better now than last season is if we kept Poch and let him have a bit more control over transfers, meaning we keep Gallagher, we buy an experienced center back and an experienced striker. And I think the same can be said now. If we keep Maresca, but we keep buying him 20-year-olds, I don't see how things will change next season. The only way for us to change would be either to get a new board of directors or new sporting directors and a new manager, or get new sporting directors which work in cohesion with this manager and try to create some sort of common vision. Because there will always be club signings, but there should also be some manager signings. You can sign, let's say, 5 players, and none of them is a direct wish of the manager. You can maybe sign 5 players, and one is direct recommendation of the manager, and another one is a second-tier recommendation or something like that, a player which at least the manager likes. Because I really think if we keep signing these 20-year-olds, which I'm pretty sure are not the first on the wish list of the manager, then I really don't see how things can change massively. Yeah, maybe we play a bit better and we cement 5th or 4th next season, maybe, but I don't see how we can make any major progress with the current policy.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Now, because I agree with this point in principle, because people are saying, we are worse now than we were under Poch last year. And maybe at this stage in the season, maybe that is relatively accurate, even though the 5-0 loss to Arsenal is pretty much exactly a year ago. So, that's also a slightly to be debated point, I guess. But what we can say is we're certainly not better than we were a year ago right now. But my only difference point is, unless we sell like one of the, let's call it the big 4, which for me are Caicedo, Enzo. Well, I used to include Palmer in that. Right now, I'm less sure. But Palmer and Cucurella. Unless we sell one of those 4, I don't think we're in a position like last season that we can make the squad so much worse with 1 or 2 things. I think the squad is now in a position where it's like, other than those 4, everybody else is pretty much interchangeable.
Yeah, so but still,
because like losing Gallagher is huge, and losing Thiago Silva is huge. I'm not sure if we have a player other than those 4 I mentioned that would be such a big loss. So I think that would be a natural progression into next year more than there was past summer, because last summer and January we just ruined our squad.
Okay, that's a fair point, but my general concern is if we buy this lad from Bournemouth, Huijsen, or however you say his name, sorry if I did it wrong, and if we buy, let's say, another 21-year-old winger to replace Sancho, for example, I don't think that makes the squad better. Because I still think we need experience. I agree. And that's the thing.
What doesn't make the squad better and what makes the squad worse?
That's true, but still
remain similar. And I don't think last year we remained it similar. We made it worse.
Well, that is true, but if we assume that there are teams in the Premier League which will make their squads better, keeping the same level of squads for us is not gonna be it. Because I think this year we suffered massively because a couple of teams made improvements, especially, for example, Aston Villa in the winter. The 3 striker signings that Aston Villa made in the winter basically saved their season. Because if they had not done, let's say, if they had signed only one of those 3 players, I think they sit in 11th now. Or 12th. And as things stand, they can overleap us for Champions League if games go their way. So, I mean, winter transfer windows are huge, and a lot of big clubs have suffered from basically neglecting them. Arsenal are also a prime example for this. If they signed a striker, they might as well have been in the Premier League title race right now. And they didn't. And these are the mistakes which I think we are all of the fan base is fearing right now, just like making bad transfers again. Even if you don't sell your best players, which I am still not ruling out because I don't know if we don't make Champions League, I don't know where they find the money to sign their customary 7 under 20 players. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm a bit too negative, but if we
Saudi offer for Caicedo becomes a threat.
I mean, I don't know. Yeah.
I don't like as stupid and crazy as I think as Clear Lake are. I think they are not entertaining any offer for Caicedo under 200 million, and I don't think we will get any offer close to that. But I mean, honestly, in terms of what you said about many big clubs mess up January transfer windows, I think we've come to a point, by the way, where the valuations of certain players don't go along with the PSR rules anymore. I think we've actually come to a point in the Premier League where the PSR rules are so stringent that even though we have so much more money than all the other clubs, we're not actually able to spend it. Now, as a collective, the Premier League is, because in the other leagues, there's only 2 or 3 teams that can. But I really don't feel that us, Arsenal, Liverpool, City with financial restrictions, Man United with financial restrictions, can buy any more or less players than Bayern, Barca, Real Madrid. I mean, Barca obviously have their registration issues. That's a whole different thing again. So, yeah. I mean, that goes on a whole different tangent. Is PSR actually hurting the Premier League now when it was supposed to like keep things a little bit more?
No, it is hurting, but I think maybe most people don't know, but my thing is that you don't need to go and spend 58 million on Marmoush or something like that. I think that for us, you can go in the Czech league, basically go to the Czech league or go to Legia and buy their best player for 18 million euros and use him for 6 months.
But you wouldn't be happy.
I wouldn't be. Well, I would be because I know that signing even the best striker of Legia Warsaw was better than not signing anyone in this January transfer window. And not only that, we got rid of Felix. So we made our squad weaker. And I think this is always the worst situation because I always give this example when discussing this with friends. Remember when we bought Lavia and Caicedo and Liverpool just got Endo for 18 million? And he has done a job for them. He was not the best signing in the world. He's not the worst signing in the world. He didn't ruin their financials. But he was just someone who 18 months later will win the Premier League with them. Not the main reason for this title.
He doesn't start regularly.
He's a backup, but imagine if they had spent, let's say, the 68 million on Lavia, and then he gets injured permanently for 2 years, and then they don't have the money to buy someone else, which ends up costing them the league, for example. So you have to sometimes do those smart, cheap transfers just to fill a hole for 18 months. And I think the whole footballing world with these expert analyst is fixated.
25 million is, by the way. I think James
this is okay. Yeah, this is a good example for that. But most people just like how was the expression in English? They just flip these transfers off because they say, "Oh, you need to fix your midfield for the next 10 years instead of buying someone for 18 months." Well, okay, but sometimes like things happen, like injuries happen. So
we bought Enzo Fernandez and we bought Moises Caicedo. That should have been that. And then some backups like you mentioned.
Yeah, buy a 20 million pound player.
Yeah, exactly. Now, obviously, if Lavia was fit the whole time, that would be a different scenario. But that's why you don't pay 3 big transfers in one position. Because if they flop, you're like, yes, you have the backups, but you've still wasted money in a position where you didn't really have to. And that's just a waste of time and money. But as for Maresca, I'm really, really struggling with him right now because the lineup today, and we had it up earlier, the lineup today, you can't really fault it. What I can fault is why did Reece James not play? Why did he play Legia twice, then not play Ipswich, but play again today? I don't really understand.
Yeah, that was weird. Yeah,
when he plays 2 in a row and when he doesn't, makes no sense to me. But the lineup today, other than that, I don't like Neto at left wing. And frankly, I think Neto proved again why I don't like him at left wing, other than one good cross he hit to Jackson that Jackson didn't get to. Now, he makes runs and everything, but he just doesn't do anything else useful. Because Reece played those diagonals that you spoke about earlier, that gave Neto some usefulness. But I'm like, put Reece to the left of midfield and let him play the diagonal to Madueke. Same issue. Like or play Neto on the right and play those diagonals to him over there. that can still happen. I still think Neto is a bit wasted on the left. But this is what kind of scares me more than anything else. Like in February time, early March, we had the excuse, okay, we're not playing that well, but we have some of our biggest players missing. Now, we don't have any of our biggest players missing, and we're still absolutely capable for the most part. that is for me.
Almost everyone is fit, basically. I think apart from Fofana, everyone was fit for this game. I believe so, because Lavia's on the bench, Reece is fit, Palmer, Jackson. So yeah, I mean, it's.
Yeah. I mean, Lavia wasn't fit to start because otherwise he would
have
on the bench. But yeah, no, I think it's those two. Yeah, I think it's those two. Obviously, Gusto got injured during the game, but as for when we started the game, it was. I think you're right. I think it was just those two. I mean, is there anybody else missing?
I mean, Mudrik's missing, but
yeah, and
but
I would be another striker option. But
actually, yeah, I forgot he existed.
Yeah, same. As do I. But yeah, otherwise, I can't really moan at the lineup itself, can I? Like, you really can't in the grand scheme of things. Now, we don't have a midweek game this week, so that obviously helps, and that's why he probably did play this kind of 11 rather than particularly fresh for midweek. But Dimitar, we had a question earlier in the chats, and I want to get to this. After our comeback, who is your man of the match despite a negative first half? Because it's obviously Neto scored the winner, but I think other than the winner, I didn't think he was any good. So I'm not sure if that's enough for me to give him the man of the match, but I'm not really sure who else to give it to either. So who would be the man of the match for you?
I was actually going to say Neto. I think I'm starting to like his play style more because the moments where he shines is where he improvises for me, because I don't think he suits the Maresca system. And I also think he gave the assist for the George goal, if I'm not mistaken, or was that Enzo Fernandez?
Well, officially,
but it was regardless,
a Fulham player because one of the guys touched him. But I'm not sure who the ball came off before either, if I'm honest.
I think he came from Neto, but regardless, as I said, I kind of like... I kind of like his movements when he's closer to the touchline because this is where he is at his best. Transitional play, quick touches, and maybe also being able to run past players, I believe. I don't think he fits the horseshoe possession style we play for 75% of every game. So I would say Neto. Also, the goal I find was amazing. Like this is what you try to do on FIFA when you try to do skill shots. You stop it with the right foot and then shoot it with the left foot, and you turn around with your body. It looked amazing, and the whole attack. Also, the Enzo Caicedo connection on the right on the touchline. Then you go through the center. You have a couple of good movements from Palmer. I think this was a great goal, and this is what I want Chelsea to do, like in the 10th minute of the game, in the 17th, the 20th, not when we are playing with our backs against the wall, needing a desperate win. I mean, this is what they should be playing when the pressure is off, not when the pressure is on. Because we know they're talented players and we know they can come up with magical moments, but this should come naturally from the system and not from just like desperation or improvisation in the last seconds of the game. Yeah. So this is also a bit on Maresca because he has to find ways to fill the gaps in the squad, and I think this is the only way this can be done is if he gets the same transfers. Because seeing him regularly shift play.
I'm not sure if you saw this, Dimitar, but reportedly, according to David Ornstein, he does get this say. Whether it ends up being true,
well,
according to Ornstein,
let's see in the summer.
In every decision.
Because I think the biggest indication that he sees problem in the team is that he constantly does these tweaks. So let's say this week Cucurella is going to be in the middle and Gusto in the half spaces. 3 weeks later, it's Cucurella in the half spaces, Gusto in the middle, or James in the middle, and then Gusto is playing left center back. And we see these constant shifts when 1 week Enzo is attacking the half space on the right wing. I think the last stream we did together, Enzo was closer to the right touchline. And now today he played, I think, more centrally and not left or right. And we saw also Palmer more to the right compared to the left, which he was attacking the last 2 or 3 games. So Maresca constantly shifts things where he sees problems. But I think the way to solve some of those problems is just get new personnel or new options, because sometimes you can't just keep shifting a player in 7 different positions to fix some issues. You just have to bring another player on. And this is kind of what happened with Tyrique George, because we just brought him on instead of Jackson, I believe, and there we had a winger instead of a striker, and you completely saw a difference in movement from everyone else. So this is something that you can't fix with just like saying to Jackson, oh, well, can you move here, here, and here? You have to bring another player on who has a different style of attacking. So this is what I think we need for the manager, whoever he is, because if we change Maresca and get another yes man and don't listen to him, it's not gonna fix anything. It's gonna make things worse. So I think yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting one on Neto. Now I've brought up Tyrique George now because we've spoken about him as well. Now, maybe I mean someone else said it in the chat. Where was it? Max said George gets man of the match. George was the difference, and I kind of agree. Now, obviously, he played a lot less minutes than Neto, and he didn't score the winner. And had we only drawn 1-1, none of us would have been any happy with this, like the 2-2 against Ipswich, where we, by the way, had a similar chance close to the end with Enzo Fernandez rifling one goal.
I remember.
But only made an outrageous stop, and thankfully, Leno didn't save Neto's effort today. I think that did make a big difference, and otherwise it could have been very similar. But Tyrique George, honestly, like, what did you make of Tyrique George all season? Because earlier in the season, I was really not particularly impressed, I've got to say. Now, he played a lot of games on the right, and everybody that knows the youth teams knows he's much better off the left. But he's never got himself a goal. He missed that big chance against Noah and then didn't really even find himself in positions to have a chance. And then when he got very limited minutes for, I don't know, felt like December, February to February, I thought I really wasn't particularly impressed. But then ever since 10 days ago now, in that first leg against Legia Warsaw, ever since he came on at striker in that game, that's kind of changed my mind on him a little bit. Because I'm like, so all of these guys are using you as wingers, as this creative player. But actually what you are is kind of not too dissimilar to Nicholas Jackson. And I'm not sure if people will see this point now. And obviously we will sign a striker this summer, depending on who that ends up being. But I'm pretty sure we will end up signing a striker. But seeing George play up front, I see a lot of what I see in Jackson, who obviously also became a striker from being a winger. And I'm not saying now let's turn Tyrique George into a striker. But I almost feel like he has more instinctual movement in that area than Nicholas Jackson even does, if I'm honest. Like, Jackson has a lot other than instinctual movement. That's the one thing he doesn't have. And shooting, obviously. But yeah, Tyrique George at striker is kind of moving me a little bit. Where do you stand on Tyrique George? What have you made of him until so far this season, but also with the striker position now?
I thought maybe as you that he got a bit less chances than I would have expected him to get, or that I would have wanted him to get. But you are also spot on with this movement, because if you also notice, for the goal he scored, he literally moved into the space where no one was covering him, because after we had no striker on the pitch, they were a bit confused. And then for the second goal, even though he had nothing to do with the second goal, he was also in exactly that half space, and which left enough room for Neto, which was also absolutely not marked by anyone, to just run in there and occupy this position. And this is very crucial, because when we play with one striker with fixed positioning, we are always very, very predictable. And today, I think maybe it was Maresca's instruction, maybe it was George's natural drifting from wide to center, but this worked because we confused them, because we did not use our traditional positioning and traditional crossing position. So I liked him. I think this goal will be very, very big for his confidence, and I just hope he plays. Maybe not starter in every game, but I hope we see him have some sort of impact in the next 5, 7, or 8 games if we make the final of the Conference League.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. I think in the Conference League, he should start every game.
Oh yeah, he should start for sure. Yeah.
If I'm being honest, but yeah, it's also his first Premier League goal, only 10 days after scoring his first goal for the club. Yeah, things are looking up for Tyrique George, and he was.
Yeah, I mean, for sure.
And I love the irony in Cobham saving Clear Lake. Like, it's too ironic. At the same time, also in a way a bit sad. Now, Damarni says, miss Mudryk yet? And honestly, yes, I do. I bloody miss him, and I've missed him honestly since the day he got banned, because that's just when he started to hit form. He was bloody brilliant. I know it was only Conference League, but look at us in the Conference League now, and I know now it's the knockouts, but these teams are not that much better than Legia Warsaw. I'm telling you that much, or that much worse than Legia Warsaw. But that goal against Heidenheim, the goal against, can't remember who the other team was he scored against. He finally started to be useful, and I thought he was finally starting to be good. And I genuinely think we miss his his profile a lot. And I think this is why we sometimes see Neto play left wing, not because the manager necessarily thinks Neto should be playing left wing, but because he wants a different style of winger to Sancho. And we used to have that in Mudryk, but now we don't. So now the closest other option is Neto, because Tyrique George is good, but he's also not like super fast. So he's not going to make those constant runs in behind like Mudryk never did on the Poch last season for some weird reason. And by the way, this is not a Poch criticism. He also didn't do it on the Potter or Lampard, runs in behind. So don't know why that is. But yeah, George is quick off the mark, but not got great sprint speed. So he doesn't provide that option either. So yes, I do miss Mudryk. But yeah, big up. Tyrique George, he did very well today. I've got a couple of quotes to look at for you guys.
I just want to add something. It's very ironic because last season as well, if you see the amount of goals that Gallagher scored between January and May, he was also the person who saved Poch's job and who made Poch look better at the end of the season. And this was the person who we were trying to desperately get rid of all season. So come to the rescue for a second year in a row.
Yes, as they always do.
Yep.
Yeah, just to make it clear, because someone in the chat thought this earlier, Caicedo is not suspended for any matches, despite rumors, because after the last game, which is why it was such a big deal, the yellow cards were wiped, or not wiped, but you didn't get suspended for 10 yellow cards anymore. You now, as of today, you only get suspended with 15 yellow cards, which obviously Caicedo is now 5 away from. So, yeah. Despite picking up the 10th yellow card today, no suspension. And by the way, it was the most obvious thing that he would get booked today after managing to not get booked for 5 games to avoid suspension. So he did well on that. On the goal, Maresca said the goal from Pedro doesn't change the season. In the last 3 years, Chelsea have never been in the Champions League spots. It's already a good season and the goal doesn't change that. It gives us a chance to be there. See, and I'm already back to being annoyed with him.
Yeah.
Like, literally, like Amin said, shut the fuck up. What are you talking about? Like, yes, you're right. We didn't finish in the Champions League spots last season. But we finished, what was it, 3 points of it last season?
Yeah.
How many points was it behind fourth? It was
3.
1 point behind fifth and I think 3 behind fourth. Not far anyway. And we would have been in the Europa League had it not been for City bottling the FA Cup. Like, we were in the normal Europa League finishing spot.
Yeah.
And we didn't get it. And now you're telling me just because you were in the top 4 for most of the season, that's why it's a good season. But that's not how football works. Like, what are we, Arsenal? Like, top of the league for half the season and now think we basically won the league. No, we didn't. What are you talking about? Yes, Neto's goal changes a lot. And the fact that he's not even trying to use the momentum created by this goal to create a positive atmosphere and to create a feeling of, yes, we can do this now. The fact that he's saying the goal doesn't change anything. I want to slap him on his head. Like, what are you doing?
Yep.
Like, doesn't this frustrate you as well, reading this quote?
Oh, yeah. I mean, but the thing is, he's not experienced in these situations, and I can't be mad at him for not having experience. What I can be mad at him is just not realizing where he is, I think. And he's still not realized to a full extent where he is. And his comments since December 16th or 15th have almost every week made someone mad. And I think this is not a great thing, because he's constantly trying to outsmart maybe the journalists, because we know journalists ask provocative questions. This is obvious and it's normal for the Premier League. And he's kind of trying to outsmart them, I believe, like being this edgy contrarian kid in the American movies from the 90s, where you ask him something, he can always counter with the opposite. It's like, are you playing for the title? Oh no. Are you playing for Champions League? Oh no, Champions League was never the goal. And excuse me, I mean, like, he should just like calm down and just try to assess the situation and say it how he sees it. Because if he says, "Oh, we were terrible today and we got bailed out," no one will be mad at him. Because sometimes you can't say that every week, even if it's true every week. But once in a while, you have to show that you have your feet safely planted in the ground, and that you're not like somewhere floating in space in the clouds and just like not being realistic. I mean, it's very, very frustrating. Hopefully he learns this sometimes in the near future.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, yeah, that is a thing. I guess he was always he's a very inexperienced manager, very young manager. And maybe he goes too much. And I think sometimes, by the way, this is also an issue that Frank Lampard had early, that managers that have been players do things the way they think things were done or should have been done when they were players. But football has changed since they were players, and football has changed since they were players at their peaks, where their main memories come from. And I think Frank Lampard has learned that, but I think Maresca has not learned that yet. Yes, maybe when you were at Juve and the dominant side, it was fine to like always talk things down. And maybe in Spain at Sevilla, this is how you did things. But like Jack said, it all started when he was like, we were second, could have won at Everton and gone at least for 2 hours top of the league. And he said before that game, we're not ready to win the league. And yes, you're right. But you're still an idiot for saying it. Same as, yes, you are right that the atmosphere was part of the reason why we capitulated so much in the first half against Ipswich after going 1-0 down. Yes, you're right. But you're an idiot for saying it, because it means the fans like you even less. And that means they will be even more toxic against your team, which means he is inadvertently harming the team with his comments. And, you know, I just miss managers like Jose Mourinho, who would say the most outlandish things purely to protect his team.
but also even Jose didn't say that every week, and I feel like almost every week where we don't get the result, Maresca says something absolutely insane. I mean, he should just like tone it down a bit, really, or maybe sometimes even agree with the journalists, because Pep has this weird thing. Well, sometimes if the journalists ask, well, did you play bad today? Pep says, yeah, we had the worst game of our season and they won 5-0. Something like that. I mean, like, sometimes you can just like be a little bit cheeky with the journalists. You don't need to always like be so aggressive against them, because even if they are to you. And this is, of course, something which you learn with time. You can't expect someone in their first season in the Prem to know this, but you have to expect the person who employs him to have this in mind.
Yeah, no, I agree. And like Jack continues saying, you want your manager challenging you, sure, but not telling your level is only top 4 or below. Tell them your expectations are to win always and never drop below that. Exactly. And just as a last point on this, like you said, you know, and Max said it as well. If he just said no comment, fine. Like you said as well, just don't even reply to these questions. And if Maresca said and had the balls to be as honest and open about it, as he should be, in the sense of, if he's saying we didn't finish in the Champions League spots at any point last season or the last 2 seasons, so why are you expecting us now? On the one hand, it's stupid because we did finish 6th last season, and you would expect at least some progress. So at least, at the very, very least, finishing 5th when you finished 6th last season, you would expect the very, very minimum is to go from 6th to 5th. Now, if he sat there and says, yes, we finished 5th last season, 6th last season, but our squad isn't as strong anymore as it was last season. If you said that, if you had the balls to say that, because it's the truth, but if you said that,
it's true,
it would be fine. But you are just sitting there saying, we weren't in the Champions League last season, so that's why it's fine not to be in it this season. Now, if we finished 10th last season, fair enough. But we finished 6th, and this season, the 5th gets you Champions League. So now to sit here and say that this isn't the minimum expectation, to me is a joke. It's an absolute joke. I just don't get how he comes up with these things and thinks it's okay. And Nkunku was dropped. Shock. Should have been happening 3 months ago, but you didn't have the balls to do that either. Maresca says Gusto had a bad injury, not a good injury, a muscular problem. Yeah, I mean, we saw. I don't really have much else to add to that, if I'm honest. Go on.
Yeah, I mean, you are completely right. And he just, like I said, he just really has to try and calm himself down, because sometimes also in his answers, I also sense really this bit of aggression, which is not needed, because you can learn to, you have to, even if someone asks you a very aggressive question, in this type of job, you have to answer it calmly. It's like, I know maybe this is a bad example, but it's like if someone tries to tease you and says, oh, since when did you stop beating your wife? I mean, you can't just go at him and just beat him up. You have to try to answer him calmly, because if you aggressively talk to him, then he says, oh, so it's true. So, like, sometimes in a stressful job, you just have to try and keep your head down and just say, okay, yeah, we failed. That's it. Like, sometimes it's just like that.
And sometimes admitting failure and accepting failure is also the much bigger man's thing to do than to pretend everything's fine. Like, it takes a much bigger manager, like, unlike Potter, who always said, oh, we tried our best, tough luck. It takes a much bigger and stronger man to say, yeah, we aren't doing good enough, we need to be better. But that's not what he's saying. Now, I have a slight disagreement with Jack here, though, because he says if Ranieri came out and kept saying Leicester can't win the Prem that season, they wouldn't have won. Go with the flow. If you're top or second, say, yeah, we can win. Don't say, no, we aren't ready. I actually think Ranieri said exactly that. I actually think Ranieri
they kept saying it.
said,
Yeah,
all we're focusing on is getting 40 points and not getting relegated. That's what he said. He didn't say yes, we can bring. Now maybe come April, March, he did because they were still top and obviously they were nearing the end. But around Christmas time, he said that all they want is 40 points. So, but this is also not comparable to Maresca at Chelsea. What Ranieri did at Leicester. Leicester had the miracle of all miracles not to get relegated the season before. That's a very different scenario to us finishing 4 points off fourth and being second at that point. You know, but
also, Maresca should have actually said, well, our goal is to get the Champions League. If we end up winning the title, it's going to be fantastic, but we're focusing on getting a UCL spot. That's what he should have said the second they started talking about the title.
That's all it had to be. No one would have moaned.
All it had to be, yeah.
Exactly. No, but you're right, Jack. Yes, that is fair. And obviously, it's many, many years ago at this point, so I can't remember exactly what he said. But yeah, I guess Gusto's injury is to an extent good news for Achampong, I guess. Because
the way Reece plays today, yeah. I mean,
yeah, well, that first of all, but even like he can't play Chalobah every other game either. So like it's gonna have to be Josh sometimes. So there you go. The idea of mentality is the same at all levels of sports. Well, I'm not sure I agree with that. Obviously, you want to win every game, but the mentality at Man City or at Chelsea when we were good is obviously very different and needs to be different than it is at a team either fighting relegation or, I don't know, fighting to make the top half or something. Like, I get the
true,
mentality idea in principle, but yeah, go on, sorry.
Yeah, that is true. But for example, these managers who manage for 1 or 2 years at the lower side club, they show mentality. That's why they make progress. That's why they are touted as good managers. So Amorim, maybe not a great example, but Amorim showed a lot of mentality, a lot of class in Sporting. That's why he got to Manchester United. And sometimes it doesn't matter. Maybe
mentality and class now, personally.
You can say that, yeah.
But mentality, I think he is showing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So because, like, yeah, you should, even if you're managing in the 4th Austrian division, showing mentality would not be a bad thing, even if it's not the standard for everyone else. If you show mentality, maybe that will be the thing which makes you head and shoulders above everyone else, and then you go 1 tier higher. And even if you're not ready for that 1 tier higher, that mentality will not be in detriment, because mentality is something that can transcend sports. Sometimes, yeah, you can be a good footballer and then you can give advice to a good basketball player how to mentally handle the situation, even if you don't know anything about basketball. Because, like, mentality is very important.
Oh, don't give them ideas. They'll hire someone else from rugby again. We've already tried this.
I mean, get me Shaquille O'Neal to speak to these players in the dressing room. It's not going to be worse than now, believe me.
No, that is obviously true. Except Maresca might feel a bit intimidated with Maresca being a fairly small man. If Shaquille O'Neal turned up, I don't think the authority would work quite that well anymore. But there you go. Dimitar, as we near the end of this stream, obviously you picked Pedro Neto for your man of the match. I picked Tyrique George for my man of the match. Do you have any other things that you wanted to pick out from this game? Now, I don't like doing it, but I think it's interesting. I want to pick a worst player today as well. And then if there is anything else, either an individual that you want to touch on or a moment that you want to touch on, please obviously bring it
up. Something I thought also maybe the last game I watched in the Prem against Ipswich, I think not necessarily his fault, but I think Colwill should be playing much better. I think Colwill should also try to show some sort of leadership. And I think even in this tweet, which we have been discussed from Pys a couple of times now, he was not mentioned in the players who try to be leaders. I think it said like Sanchez and Chalobah try to be leadership roles behind the scenes. I want to see Colwill do this. I think this is his 3rd or 4th season partaking in the Premier League. So even if he's quite young, he like 3 or 4 seasons in the Prem, that's a lot. Like he's an experienced Premier League player, even compared to Enzo. Like Enzo Fernandez has played maybe 18 months less than him, and Caicedo even less, I believe, or maybe the same as Enzo. But still, you are an experienced player. You have played under a boatload of managers, some of them good, some of them bad. But still, like you should be doing better, and you should be shouting at your teammates. You should be helping them. You should be doing something at the back, because we were comparing him to like a young John Terry a couple of years ago, and now I also don't see a lot of people online be hyped about him. Like it's just like, oh, he had a good game or he had a bad game. Doesn't matter. Next game. And this is some sort of apathy which I'm starting to feel with people, and even the guys in our chat. They have so low expectations from him. They're not even calling out his good or bad performances. It's a bit disappointing for me. And I like him because he's from Cobham, and I just like him as a player. He's what you want a center back to be nowadays. Like statistically, he has the talent.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. I think someone at the very beginning of the chat picked out Colwell to mention he played well. In terms of the leadership, I think he is vocal. I think he's loud. I think he shouts around and whatever. But I think it's not leadership wise. Like, you know, he will be moaning at players. He will be angry at players. He will be shouting at the ref. He will be doing those things. But it doesn't, like, it feels like, as much as you're right, he is fairly experienced now, I still think you can tell his age. I feel
of course.
Age to obviously Enzo and Caicedo. I think he is still a year or two younger. I think he's still only 21 now. Maybe he's turned 22 to be fair, but still, you know, I think he was certainly 21 at an earlier point this season. And I think you can just feel that the way he just reacts too dramatically to everything, to a ref's call,
that's a good point. Yeah,
overreacts to all of it, and I think this is why he misses someone like Thiago Silva next to him so much, because I think his development has also been completely halted by not having someone like that next to him. That all of a sudden, being the guy next to Thiago Silva, he's gone from now you're supposed to be the guy. You know, you're not supposed to be the guy next
that's
to the
fair,
guy.
but
all of a sudden became from being next to Thiago Silva to, okay, now I have to be the guy. You know, and that is hard for anyone. So as much as, you know, Jack says Colwell has been awful this season, I disagree on the word awful. If you want to say underwhelming, fair enough. But I think awful is
underwhelming.
You have the fourth best defense in the league in terms of goals conceded. You can't be telling me any of our defenders were awful. You know, the goalies was awful. And I know that whole fourth best defense in the league still applies. But we all know that a lot of more of our goals have come from goalie mistakes than from individual defender mistakes, especially centre-back mistakes. But yeah. Would Colwell be your worst player today? Or would it be Reece James? Like I probably think so.
Worst player is definitely Reece James for me. As I said, it's just like maybe a worst impression, because it's not like he plays good or bad. I don't notice him that much, and I want to notice him more. It was more what I was trying to say. And the word you used, underwhelming, is perfectly how I feel about him. He's just underwhelming. And maybe I'm too harsh expecting more from him. But also, the thing is, if he has been part of Cobham, and which he has been, he has also been there when maybe Eden Hazard was there, when Kante was there, when Rudiger was there. Maybe he also has some photo with Drogba as a small kid. So he kind of knows what the club should be about. And I feel like Reece James, if he could have had the fitness of Colwell, we would have had the best right back in the world. Even though Colwell is also not super fit, he's much more fitter than Reece James. And Reece James kind of, for me, has the right mentality at moments, but maybe on the pitch and in the fitness room, he's been underwhelming.
Yeah,
in opposition to Colwell.
Fair
Maybe
enough.
If we can mix them together, it would be the best for
We'd
us.
have one really bad one and one really good one.
Yeah,
there you go. I mean, I also think in terms of the leadership, as much as obviously we talk about it, and, you know, Maresca has asked for more from Reece James, and we talk about this for Colwell. You know, we not only do we, in my opinion, still to this day massively miss Gallagher and Thiago Silva on the pitch. They were also the first two captains after Reece. So we also gave away our two biggest leaders that were fit in the same summer. Like, think about it. Who does that? Who sends away their two biggest leaders? It's like they have no grasp of leadership. Like, I don't know if American sports, you know, I know there is a team captain, like in American football. Maybe it's just much more about the manager. But even if it is much more about the manager, don't hire a manager with 1 year's experience. You know what I mean? So it still doesn't.
And also, we just threw the captain's armband at Caicedo and Enzo when Reece is not fit, which is also a big responsibility. I mean, they're still like, this was only the second season for Caicedo starting at Chelsea, and it's the second and a half season for Enzo. And you just make them like captain and vice captain, basically, because Reece is almost never fit. So this is also like the management behind the scenes, again, is not optimal. And we are kind of lucky that some of these players have been as fit as they have been and have been able to handle as much pressure as they have handled. And even if someone doesn't like Enzo, doesn't like Caicedo, doesn't like Cucurella, they have handled a lot of pressure. And this is something which you cannot deny. So,
100%. 100%. Just as a last thing to touch on, I want to highlight and agree with this comment by Max. Cobble did say he's not happy with his form, and all the talk of potential is pointless if he doesn't fulfill it. And that's what he said himself. I can't remember after what game. It was like a week or two, as in between 10 and 20 days ago at some point in a post-match interview. He did give a very good interview in that sense, very self-critical, very self-aware, very reflecting on himself, which I think is one of the biggest things you need in improving. I think that's one of the things I that annoy me about Noni Madueke, where I'm like, yes, you can be good, you have talent, but you think you're way better than you are, and that's why you're not going to get as good as you could become, in my opinion. And I think Cole being slightly on the opposite of this scale, I think is probably why he can become better, but it's probably also why his mentality maybe isn't quite there. But at the same time, can I be critical of a 21, 22-year-old not having John Terry's mentality? I mean, the club has put us into a position where he needs to have it, but I can't really fault him for not having it.
I'm also trying not to be critical. I'm just disappointed. Maybe that's from my higher expectations, but I feel disappointed at times, and maybe it's my fault more than their fault, but the situation is that we have a lot of things to disappoint us. And this is the problem. It's not like I'm cherry picking and I'm trying so hard to find something negative. It's very easy, actually, to find something negative. So
yeah, it is easy. Yeah, I mean, just as the last thing on Colwell, I just think he's suffering from a lot of things. I think he would, obviously, last season he was next to Thiago Silva, but he had to be the aggressor because Thiago Silva couldn't. That's not Colwell. Colwell is the guy that sits and has an aggressor next to him. That's why Colwell and Fofana, if Fofana was ever fit, this can work in principle, purely from stylistic players. But I also, as much as I always heard that Levi Colwell was super talented, I never heard him as being like, yeah, he's going to be captain material or whatever. And some players are and some players aren't. For example, Declan Rice, you knew at 12 years old that the guy would be a captain one day. You knew it. And with John Terry, I'm sure it's the same. With some players, you know that they're not going to be it. And with some players, they develop into it in later life. That's just how it is.
Of course, yeah.
I don't agree with this, Sammy, because I think the idea that make your best player captain is a silly idea in the first place. I think, like Belgium, would have achieved more if they didn't make Hazard captain, personally. Like, this is one of those things. I think the best player is already the best player. If you make the best player and captain, you don't have two main guys anymore. You just have one main guy, and I think that's stupid. I think you need to give yourself...
That's actually a very good point. Yeah, that's a very good point, actually.
And I also think he's a great player, amazing. I just think he's a little too shy to be a captain. But then again, that applies equally to Reece James. So make of that what you will. But yeah, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to round this one out. Thank you very, very much for tuning in. Thank you very much for tuning in on our first away win. By the way, we haven't touched on this since December 8th or 7th.
Wow!
Since we beat Spurs away in nearly 5 months, 4.5 months, more than 4.5 months, we haven't won an away game. And honestly, I didn't think we'd win another away game this season. And I thought the whole summer we'd be talking about how we haven't won an away game all of 2025. For every troll page and every rivals page, we'd constantly be talking about how we haven't won an away game in 2025. So thankfully, at least that isn't happening now. It's at least one positive. So shout out to Tyrique George, shout out Pedro Neto, 2 great goals, 2 great finishes. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button on your way out. That would be massively appreciated. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Up the Chels, upwards and onwards, and we will see you next time.
Bye, guys.